Oh, all right. Hey, we are live. All you freedom loving boys and girls, whomever you are, wherever you are, Mark Centerline Systems, welcome to the live stream. Uh, you may have seen the posts. As always, I just kind of spend a little bit of time letting the whole live stream catch up with everybody. So I'm just going to kill just a couple seconds by just doing a little intro here. So if you saw the post, or if you know what this is about, or if you don't, this is going to be about veteran healthcare, right? Or healthcare for veterans. And that is the whole gambit. I've got two incredible human beings on for guests. I'll be introducing them in a couple seconds. They'll tell a little bit of their background. We also have another guest who's going to come on about halfway through and talk about their organization. So, without further ado, I think we got a handful of people watching right now. So let me just bring our guests on, and I would just, if I can, like if I can beseech each and every one of you, I don't know where this is going to go. I mean, this has been a pretty emotional, see, already getting choked up. It's been a pretty emotional, well, it's been even more emotional for some other folks, but it's been an emotional last 24 hours. This has been a little journey I've been on for about 2 months now for some of my own personal things. So I don't know how much I'll share tonight about my experience with the VA, but maybe have a glass of beer or a wine or something ready, and maybe some tissues. We'll see how this goes. Let me bring our guests on here. And that's the thing I'll beseech you. Hey, if this, and I've got an opening here, but if you take this to heart and if this means something to you, share this. You hear me say this and you hear other people say it, but I really mean it. You got to share this. You got to comment on it. This is the only way we're going to break through this algorithm. I already know we're going to be talking about some stuff that, a lot of people don't want to hear, especially the people who control social media and the government. Share it, tag your politicians, anybody out there who's saying they care about veterans. We've got to put their feet to the fire and we, the people, have to hold them accountable. Let me bring on our guests. So first and foremost, I've got Chappy, and then let me bring on Tom. Why don't we just start with Chappy, and then we'll come to Tom, and then I've got a little intro here. So Chappy, why don't you, if you've been on before, but people may not have seen it, just tell everybody what you're willing to share a little bit about yourself, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I go by Chappy. I'm down here in Tucson, Arizona. I'm a Navy vet, served 99 to 04 as a combat photographer. Really honored to be back on the show to talk about this extremely important topic, especially it's relevant to me, which we'll talk about soon, but very fresh in my mind about how we are not doing, or I should say not we, but the government is not doing its job in taking care of our veterans. But I also have the honor of running the Arizona Trail Association's VETS program. I take veterans out on the Arizona National Scenic Trail in hopes of providing them some holistic and natural healing by digging in the dirt with me for a few days. So I can talk about that later. That's kind of what I talked about last time with Mark, but I'll hand it back over to Mark or Tom. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm so happy you could come on here today, my good man. And yeah, okay, Tom, let's come to you. Just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you're willing to share, and why people should listen to you. And it's not just because you've got that good old man white mustache going on. Tom, you're muted. Tom, you're mute. Here, I'll unmute
there
you.
we go.
You got it. There you go. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, I am an old guy. I just got out of the woods trying to take a hanger tree down, and I'm all hot and sweaty and covered with sawdust. So, anywho, I just retired from the VA after 21 years. I worked on a primary care team, taking care of people in a general practice. Prior to that, I worked in neurosurgery for a couple of years for one of the big groups in my hometown of Duluth. And a couple of years in rehab medicine and 10 years with a nursing service of 4 kids. So I worked a bunch of jobs to make ends meet. I'm also retired from the military, 23 years, 6 years with the Minnesota National Guard, 10 years with the Army Reserve, and then 6 years with the 148th Fighter Wing Air National Guard. that's I'm just hanging out, building log cabin and serving with the honor guard. I met Mark in the Wounded Warriors program when he was taking guys out hunting on some land that I had in town. So,
All right, sorry, 1 second here, guys. All right, there we go. All right, had to come back. I had one last little piece of housekeeping I had to do real quickly. So yeah, you know, and I'm actually you glad you brought up that. So, you know, when I first met Tom, I mean, I was actually doing some training stuff, but I was also part of a group, and it's not the Wounded Warriors like you think of the Wounded Warriors. It was a hunting establishment. So, you know, this is going to kind of come back full circle to Chappy here in a little bit. It was trying to find those more natural, holistic, you know, ways to get vets out into the woods and experience nature and let nature, you know, play that role. And we try to facilitate getting these guys out there and getting them on deer or grouse and just spending time. Matter of fact, one of the last ones I did, the guy really didn't even give a shit about taking deer. He just wanted to have somebody who'd go out and stalk with him, and just so he could get back out in the woods. Yeah. You know, that was over by your place, Tom. Yep. And just, it was all about just being out there and being in that environment. And that was pretty badass. Hey, so with your guys' permission, I'm going to do just kind of a little bit of a kind of intro to set the stage for what we're going to talk about here for the next 50 minutes. And again, we'll have another group coming on here a little bit later, and I'll get to that at some point. But here, I just wanted to say this. And I kind of wrote this down. I'm not a good, you know, I would never be a good politician, you know, but I did have to, you know, write down some notes here. And I just want to say this real quickly to everybody. When it comes to, because this is, to me, there's two sides to this coin. And I want to give you a negative perspective, and then I'm going to turn it to Chappy to give you the more positive perspective. But I think they're equally important. And I want to just set the stage for what we're trying to do here. You know, so in essence, you know, if I'm about to say some stuff and we're going to say some things, and I'm just trying to set the stage. Like, if this stuff offends you, well, then this isn't the show for you. If you think nameless bureaucrats should make healthcare decisions for you instead of or against the advice of your actual doctor, if you think that's cool, that's what you want to do, then this is not the show for you, right? And I've got my own personal experiences on that. If you think hundreds of billions of dollars shipped to a foreign war, right? You can talk about the war separately, but if you think shipping hundreds of billions of dollars, spending hundreds of billions of dollars on a foreign war, and we've got, but we ignore veteran suicide and we don't do anything, we don't spend any resources to try to address veteran suicide, this isn't the show for you. If you think hundreds of millions of illegals entering our country illegally, you can sit there and say, well, maybe we should do this and re-examine our immigration. That's a separate question. But if you think spending hundreds of millions of dollars per city, per state, you know, for people who've broken our laws, well, we have veterans wandering homeless in our streets, succumbing to drugs and mental illness. If you think that's cool, this isn't the show for you. If you think anything I just said is offensive or wrong, but you don't do anything or say anything or speak out about the abuses, the things that we see happening around us, or if you just want to keep your head in the sand, right? You know, just ignore. None of these things happen. These brave men and women, well, or maybe we're all just stupid. And this is where Chappy's going to go, like, you know, maybe we're just the idiots who raise our hand and say, yeah, I'm willing. I understand this is a contract. And on my side, I might lose my life. I might lose a limb, multiple limbs. I might be disfigured. I might lose an eye. At a minimum, I'm going to lose relationships. I'm going to lose, you know, opportunities. I'm going to lose sleep. I'm going to lose that, you know, sometimes that opportunity for love or relationship or kinship. I volunteered knowing that that's some of these things. I hope none of them happen, but there's a high probability. And if you're a vet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Alcohol abuse, spouses, marriages, divorce, kids hating. It's unfortunately a tough life. Right. So, but if that stuff offends you, you know, I don't know what to say to you, because we have a contract, right? It's the government. I made a contract with the government as a veteran. I voluntarily did this, and I knew there were going to be consequences, and some of them could be severe, but there was a contract, and the government, and I'm looking at the camera, the government is we the people, right? It's still we the people. Last I checked. We, the people, are not upholding our end of the bargain for that approximate 1% of our population who's either, call it what you want, brave, patriotic. Chappy's going to talk about this a little bit. We were kind of joking, maybe we're just the stupid ones. But when we, the people, aren't upholding our side of the bargain and we're doing all this other bullshit first, man, we got some problems, boys and girls. We've got some problems. Chappy, you want to take that and maybe tell everybody, like, who is a veteran? What does this even mean? Why should we care? Right? So many people be like, you guys are just the idiots and you're just the cannon fodder.
Well, look at this room or this screen. We are a diverse group, if nothing else. We're black, we're white, we're men, we're women. They look like me. They look like Mark. They look like Tom. The age gaps are huge at times. But a veteran isn't just, someone that wraps themselves in an American flag every day. I think there's we talked about this, Mark, yesterday. It's call it a sense of pride or patriotism, or even if it's just trying to get out of a bad situation. Veterans, at the end of the day, held up their hand and put their life on the line, whether they could comprehend that at all of 18, 19 years old, like myself, or if that came later, that sense. We are the 1%. In Arizona here, we have over 500,000 veterans or that identify as veterans. So every day I always just assume in my community I'm talking to a veteran, even though I don't know. I still have the hat on that we all should have when it comes to paying respects to your neighbor. And I think that's what it comes down to, is this sense of whether or not you're wearing a uniform or not, you have a sense that community is community and community is what you make of it.
I'm glad you just said that at the end. That kind of reminded me. So like I just wrote some stuff down. Veterans, as Chappy said, and if you've ever served, so I grew up in northern Minnesota, northeastern Minnesota. There was 2 black people in my whole community, the sheriff and one of us and a child. I didn't know any difference. I grew up during the 80s. There wasn't race issues and stuff. My battle buddy in basic training was black, and you get your hair shaved, and everybody's got nicknames. I was cue ball and he was 8 ball. That's what everybody called us, right? And because we were, inseparable. So who's a veteran? We're compassionate, that community that that Michael just talked about, Chappy. We're adventurous. You're like a warrior monk. You're an idealist. You're compassionate. There's something about, and maybe not all veterans, right? Maybe some are psychopaths and some are lazy. I mean, we're all just human beings, but there is something that is different, right? That 1% of people, again, for whatever foolish reasons, a sense of adventure, world travel. I grew up in a small town and I want to go see Europe, and whatever it is. That's who veterans are. But at the end of the day, I love what Chappy said. It's fucking community. There's something about that. We're compassionate. We're willing to go to some shithole part of the world and put your life on the line. For honestly, for us, we're doing it for the people who we're interacting with, the people we're serving alongside of, and the people in that community or that country that we're trying to defend. Unfortunately, we're probably also doing it for corporate and bureaucratic and, and political bullshit because, and we're just cannon fodder to them. Tom, do you want to add into anything there and maybe just on that before we kind of start going into a little bit about the more nuts and bolts on the VA side itself?
Nope. Great explanations. I'd rather get to the nuts and bolts.
All right. Well, then before we do nuts and bolts, Chappy, you want to do it now or you want to wait, brother?
Yeah, let's do it now.
All right, let's do it.
I'm going to get vulnerable with this virtual crowd here. I did with Mark last night, but why this is relevant to me today is I was naive in thinking that grim statistic of 22 veterans a day committing suicide wouldn't touch the program that I run. And unfortunately, yesterday I got news from a veteran's father, that he had unfortunately took his own life. 23 years old. And it hit me hard. So My issue here is that I am stuck because I am providing a service or services for veterans that the VA should be providing. Because not all of us want the same kind of prescription. And what it comes down to at the end of the day is we're all just looking for community. Yeah. We're all just looking to reconnect. And at the very least, the government can do is give us those options, find those resources out there that are providing experiences that rally around connection, camaraderie, and community. So, you know, I don't want to speak too ill of the VA. My whole intention of being here today is to, not without yelling as loud as I can, that unless, like Mark said earlier, unless we're demanding change, unless we are getting in front of these politicians and lawmakers and legislators demanding that we want something different, nothing's going to change. So if I can do anything today is convince all of you that are here and that may be watching later on that nature is the perfect prescription, period. That's my opinion. You might have a different one, but that's my truth. That's what I show my veterans when I go out with them and I give them my all. I show them what it is to be a brother or a sister again. I am there for them fully, completely, wholly. I give myself to this, and I will continue to do so until I can't do it anymore. That's all I got.
Amen. Here, actually, let's just do this. Everybody watching, I hope you have a drink. All right, here's to our honored dead, and here's to those who were taken too soon and those who we didn't get the help that they needed in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Mark.
You know, you kind of said it. I'm just going to say it. We should effing demand excellence out of the VA. You know, and look, I'll just say this. Look, Chappy and I don't agree on everything, and you and I, whoever's watching or listening, we don't have to agree on everything. But what we should figure out is, of all the non-political, bipartisan fucking issues in our American society, and this is probably the same for a lot of the other Western countries too, taking care of our veterans, those brave and idiotic people who raise their right hand and subject themselves to that shit, and we don't hold up our end of the bargain. That's just absolute bullshit. This should be the one thing that we all effing agree on. Put all the politics aside. We've got to do a better job. And so, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to do this, and again, Tom and I don't agree on everything, Chappy, but what we do agree on is this is wrong, and we all know it. And it's time to start being vocal and be advocates and hold politicians to the mat. And don't let unelected bureaucrats push you around. I'll just tell a quick story, because I am going to throw the VA under the bus, and maybe I'll have to tone it down, but I have to get mad here. Otherwise, I'm going to bawl like I did last night talking to Chappy. I have to focus my anger. I've had so many people, and I've only been in the VA for about 5 years, and I can't tell you, it's been at least 4, if not 6 times where somebody in the VA simply said, well, if you don't like it, tough shit, go get civilian insurance. And I'm not making this about me, but so I joined when I was 17. So if you put away those 17 years of my life, the next 39 years of my life, I've spent 30 of those 39 years in service to the country, one form or fashion. Yeah, you know, okay, you're in the National Guard, you're still serving. And if you're in a leadership position and if you're in a good unit, that's still a lot of commitment. That still is tension amongst your family and friends. That is still going out and doing things that could very easily, you know, result in severe injury or death all the time, you know, all the way up to, you know, active duty or in the agency, my time in the agency. And for some fucking bureaucrat to tell me, hey, we know we're not giving you proper health care and we know we're ignoring this, but if you don't like it, then just go get civilian health care. That is taking such a giant shit on the time I've spent, you know, I've dedicated my life to the service of this country. And again, I ain't making this about me. There's a ton of men and women out there who've got even more hardcore and who've done even more for our nation. And for, you know, and I've always said this, I don't even care if you were only in the military for 2 weeks and you were hurt in basic training. You were in the military and you deserve that health care that's supposed to come with that, because you got hurt. You've upheld your obligation. You were upholding your obligation. And I don't care if you were Delta Force Ninja Cyborg Assassin or if you were a truck driver, you know, on route fucking Irish. It don't matter. Or for a cook. None of that matters. You served in uniform, and there's cost to all that. Tom, you want to kind of add to that from your background and your experience from what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, boy, there's just so much. It's just, I'll say this, there's an odd term, and I'll just say, people talk about synchronicity, that sometimes we get our ears tuned up to things that are important to us. And just so today I'm not a big poster on Facebook normally, but I read something, and one of my friends who's a behavioral health nurse at the VA had posted something about recognizing mental illness. And so I reposted her thing and brought up that, you know, every day 22 veterans in our country commit suicide. 22 people every day that have served our country. And I also added in there, you know, 9 of those 22 are getting care at the VA. And it's a tragedy. It's a travesty. It's and I won't go into long-term part of all that, but it doesn't need to happen. And I've done everything. I am doing what I can to see that it doesn't. And,
So we've got a special guest who's in the ready room right now, and it kind of that couldn't have been timed any better, Tom. I mean, it's almost like, you know, I wish we would have rehearsed it, because that was the perfect what you just said. But before I do it, I want to bring it back over to Chappy, because you just mentioned, you know, 9 of, like, some of these vets are within the VA system, and, you know, I can speak for myself of how many times, and I want to come over to Chappy before we bring on Mike, our guest, who's going to speak quickly on his organization. But Chappy, like, how many times they didn't want to actually give me the test and figure out what's wrong with me. They just wanted to give me meds. And many of those were fentanyl-based medicines. And I was like, you know, and I'm not good at the generic name, you know, like, oh, that's, you know,
yeah.
Cialis or whatever, just making that up. I'm good at because then I can look at them like, hang on a second, that's a fentanyl-based drug. Like, yeah, you know, I'm like, no, and no. So, Chappy, in your humble perspective, I mean, I think nature's a better drug to deal with things, but I think some of that prescription stuff, and Tom, you can weigh in too, I think that's not the solution. That's making shit fucking worse.
By far.
Chappy?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like that's a common conversation I have on the trail with my vets. You know, they're talking about, especially you know, the ones that are from the Vietnam era or Korea War, you know, era, the retirement age veterans that have the ability to come out more, and they go, God, I wish something like this existed when I was transitioning out of service. I even take active duty and reservists because in my mind, I figure they're going to become veterans at some point. They might as well get their feet wet now and understand that, at least from my perspective, they're getting a taste of what they can have should the VA, you know, not adopt programs like this. And, you know, and to be fair, the VA has adopted some of the larger organizations like Team RWB, but it's not enough. Like there has to be a more comprehensive list of activities other than let me just go work out with a bunch of vets. That's cool. Don't get me wrong, but you know, I have buddies out there that utilize, you know, gaming as a platform for connection. Hunting and fishing, of course, is huge in our community. Stand-up paddleboarding, surfing, you name it, man. Like I am not it, I know, but I am it for some of them. And what we're offering, which is akin to all of us who have signed that line, is that we are still serving our community by working on the trail together. There's a mission to it. We are actively participating in the betterment of our community. So it's not just, let me take you out, show you a good time, and then, you know, send you loose and hopefully you're healed, or at least on a way, you know, feeling better. Like this is a constant engagement for me. I'm always trying to buddy check to keep that engagement high, to make sure that they know they're loved. Because I'm not, you can call me whatever you want, soft, whatever. I'm a crier. I show my emotions. I show my feelings. That's how I connect. That's my authentic self. That's the way this works. And until we get more people like me in roles that have a passion around something that's nature based, these programs just won't get any legs under them. So I will go back to the VA really quick, Mark, and I'll just say that Southern Arizona VA system is one of the best in the country, in my opinion. A lot of people, even from Phoenix, will drive down to Saba Hicks to get care. It's that good. And I am definitely in that mode of thinking. They have been receptive to that whole health approach, getting conversations started around programming like mine. So I will say that they're at least receptive to trying to open up those doors to allow outdoor adjunct therapy into their whole health approach. So, I receive mental health services through the VA. The vet center down here in Tucson rocks. Shout out to the staff over at the Tucson Vet Center. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Could they be doing better? Absolutely. And should we be, spilling money in the billions overseas when we have veterans like myself and the ones that are on the trail with me, and like the gentleman that is no longer with us? He deserved more from that
better.
system to care for him after he got out, period.
Yep. And, and maybe we'll come back to this on the other side of bringing Mike on. But, I'm starting to get the sense after, I've been kind of embracing this. And, we talk about Abbey Gate. Chappy and I were talking about Abbey Gate, the 3rd-year anniversary. Well, that's where over on Centerline, I started kind of, I'd done some rambles and stuff every now and then, but I never had been really political. Well, that's another thing. So, if me being political and exercising my First Amendment rights, that's going to bother some people, then, this, again, not the show for you, but Abbey Gate, we were talking about that. And we were just kind of talking about, like, how does this start? Where does this go? And again, maybe we can come on the other side, but because for me, that's where I started really opening my eyes and starting to really talk to a lot of other vets about these kind of related issues. And, my brothers and sisters, look, it's CIA, not veterans. There's guys out there in combat zones and doing combat tours. Okay. The PTSD and the shock and the trauma and the death and it's still the same thing, So I really kind of started looking at it, and Chappy, I want to come back to this after we bring on Mike. I'm kind of getting a sense that so even within the VA, I hear that, yeah, there's this one really good place in South Carolina. You were placed in Arizona. My experience here in Minnesota, hey, if you don't like it, suck it up, buttercup, and go get private insurance, So, hey, let's bring on Mike, Mike, can you hear me down there? You good? You ready to come on, sir? Just give me a thumbs up. No one else can hear you. Just give me a thumbs up. Okay. I'm going to bring on Mike, a very special guest, because, we want to also this isn't just a cry fest or a bitch fest. We got to come up with solutions, and you hear Chappy, myself, and Tom talking about community and nature. I'm going to bring on a gentleman who represents as part of an organization that also, gives you some other options here. And I'm going to bring him on. Mike, thanks for coming on here tonight. Such short notice. You want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and the organization you represent. And then when you're doing that, I'm going to minimize us because I want to bring up your webpage as well. So Chappy and Mike, or Chappy and Tom, I'm just going to minimize you real quickly here for a second.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, and Chappy, I'm sorry to hear about your loss. I was listening in, and that's always tough, and I've been there, and it'll be a long time before that recovery can solidify.
Thank you.
Yeah, about myself. So I served in the Marine Corps Infantry. I did the initial invasion in Iraq in 2003, and I fell into some pretty severe symptoms of combat stress, PTSD. From 2008 to 12 is where I really struggled. I had panic attacks every day, multiple panic attacks. I was going to the VA. I was seeking therapy there. I was on medications, and nothing seemed to be working for me. Yeah, I didn't even know what panic attacks were. I just thought I was dying all the time, and it was really scary. And the only thing that I was looking forward to in life was being asleep. The thought of being awake was just it was just despair. Until I could finally fall asleep, and then when I was sleeping, I had nightmares as well. I pulled out of that in 2012. I figured out something that worked for me, stumbled upon it, and once I was able to lift that anxiety and that depression, it became so clear in my mind what was going on. It's I could easily see these triggers, these fears that I developed when I was in combat, and how that was triggering my fight or flight 10 years later, and just constantly putting my body through, it's called our sympathetic nervous system, constantly putting my body through that high arousal, which in turn felt like panic attacks or caused me to panic. So once that became clear, I just became really curious, like what caused my brain to change in combat? Why was I able to remember that on a subconscious level so much better than other things that I was doing in my life? And why was I able to change my brain back when my buddies from the Marine Corps were still struggling? And I learned a lot about our memory. I just did a deep dive into positive psychology, and I learned about the different chemicals that are released in our brain that create happiness. When we feel good about something, or joyful, or stable, or calm, that's all because of chemical reactions in our body. And there's research and evidence that show which actions we can take to release the right chemicals to cause those feelings. So once realized all of that, got together with a psychotherapist and a positive psychologist and personal trainer, and we put together this 14-week program to help others transition quicker than I did. And it's based on a few different modalities. And the first one is outdoor wellness. So I'd love to hear what you all are doing. I didn't get the chance to look ahead to see what your organizations are doing, but just a little bit I heard on the podcast is wonderful. So the very first thing that we do in this program is we build trust with each other, and we do it through outdoor wellness. We'll get a dozen veterans from a location and send them to a distant state where they do a survival adventure together. So this most recent one is participating in northern Minnesota. It's in a rural area. We got, I think, 10 veterans got on the airplane. They went to Alaska, and they survived in the mountains in Alaska, right where the mountains hit the ocean, up in Homer. It's just a beautiful location. And they do it with a professional guide service. And after that week-long outdoor wellness, they built such tight trust and camaraderie. Not only do we feel safe coming out of our homes, we want to come out of our, like, we want to be with these friends because it's been since the military, since we had this kind of bond. And then we show up at a gym 3 times a week. And the purpose for the gym is not the camaraderie, it's not the physical fitness. Those are good side effects. But we show up to the gym because when we get our heart rate elevated, our brain releases chemicals that allow us to remember things better for the next few hours. Just like in combat or anytime we're in a traumatic situation, our heart rate is elevated. That boosts our learning so that our subconscious can lock in everything about that life and death situation. We want to lock in those triggers to prepare our body in the future. So we're using that same memory steroid after an elevated heart rate to lock in new positive memories. So we do a 1-hour workout together, coach led, sit down on the gym floor right there. We go through our positive psychology. And then on the weekends, we're doing something called fear reassociation. So we're learning that those triggers from those combat environments don't necessarily have to trigger dangerous memories in our mind. We are relating those to new, fun, trusting, positive memories that we're building with this team, that we created that camaraderie as well as our loved ones. It's been going absolutely phenomenal. It's not medication based. Matter of fact, you're not allowed to abuse medications. You're not allowed to drink for the 14 weeks that you're in the program. There's no bitching for 14 weeks. There's no watching the news for 14 weeks. And these things are all shown. They're all evidence based, shown to either reduce our happiness or create our happiness, and that's why that we're implementing those. So that's about me in the program that we're running up in northern Minnesota, throughout Minnesota.
And so I've got your website up right now. You want to talk a little bit specific, 23rd veterans, and again, and I apologize. I've done a couple things with you guys in the past. I did some charity stuff, but is 23rd veteran just northern Minnesota, or are you guys regional? I thought you were regional.
Yes, we've expanded. We started in northern Minnesota, so we currently run programs. This year we're running programs in the Duluth area, if you know where that's at, in the Iron Range area of northern Minnesota, in the Twin Cities area. We've ran a program out in Philadelphia, Delaware. We like to do our fundraising where we're running our programs, so we've expanded those as well out to Philadelphia. We were in California in 2019 and haven't gone back since COVID. Yeah, good question, Mark. So what was the question on the website? What did you want me to get into that?
Well, I've got I don't know if you were able to see it, but I have the main page, and then I've got a like a comment showing how people can go and find you on the internet. Do you want to like talk through and plug about maybe upcoming events or ways to donate, or how you guys use those donations or the money from the events to further your program?
Yeah, sure thing. So yeah, the website there, 23rdveteran.org. Our programs, we have a few of those going. It's under the veteran programs on the website. One is the recon program. You can refer veterans that you think would enjoy being a part of that or would benefit from it. We have bladesmithing, so that's a lot easier to, rather than this high commitment 14-week program where we send you somewhere else in the country. You can join 23rd Veteran and learn how to make a knife. And at times we'll bring in forged and fire champions to come and teach us the sharpening and shaping. And we also have forge building. We'll do that down in the Twin Cities. If you're not from the cities, we'll put you up in a hotel there for 4 days, and you build your own forge with other veterans, and you can take that home with you and continue your blacksmithing or bladesmithing at home. To get involved and support, the biggest event that we have is called Ruck Life. So it's a Ruck March. That's what that main photo is there. Someone doing the Ruck March, and anybody can get involved in that, civilians, veterans. The fundraising all goes to support 23rd Veteran. But we show up for this Ruck. The next one's coming up on September 7th. It's in like 9 days. It's in Anoka in the Twin Cities. We show up, we bring food and clothes that we want to donate to people in need, and we carry that. That's what we ruck in our sacks, up to 10 miles, and then at the finish line we weigh it to see how much we carried, and we donate all of that to Haven for Heroes in the Twin Cities. It's a shelter, a home for veterans. We'll donate like 6,000 pounds. Like people carry like 6,000 pounds, 7,000 pounds of food that get donated that day. It's a pretty cool event. The name 23rd Veteran, that was based on my story when I started 23rd Veteran. That's when that number got really popular, 22. Veterans were killing themselves every day, and I felt like I was so close to becoming one of those 22 veterans that I was the next closest thing. I figured I was the 23rd veteran, so now people will identify that and consider themselves a 23rd veteran sometimes if they feel like they've been there too. They almost took their life, and now they're still here and they're helping other veterans.
Amen. Rock and roll. Mike, I don't know if you've got the time, if you want to just hang out with us for a little bit, or if you got to bounce, but no matter what, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on, and I will definitely be reaching out. I've got this other little scheme I'm working in my head, and I will definitely be reaching out and finding a way where I can help support you guys more in the future here.
Sure thing. Yeah, I can hang out for a few minutes here, and if anybody else on the call has anything else for me or questions, welcome to ask.
Right on. Well, matter of fact, let me just do that. Let me just get everybody back on the stage, and let's see if Chappy or Tom, you guys got anything for Mike?
I've met Mike. My group. I'm with Duluth Honor Guard. We supported the Ruck March this year at the end.
I thought you were familiar.
I was supposed to be out there that day, but I ended up covering a funeral because we were short, and I was kind of bummed that I missed that. But Mike's video, he did a video on post-traumatic stress disorder that was life-changing for me. And as a nurse working with vets, so many people come to the VA and their experience with the VA is, they might get some time with a psychologist or psychiatrist, and people are broken and wounded from war. They're wounded in life, and they've got all these issues to deal with. And medicine is woefully inadequate in providing a curative change. They may be able to get involved in help managing crises, but when it comes to a curative life change to deal with these life events that we all have in one way or another, whether it's combat or just the depression that comes with life, or just, you could go on and on, but there has to be a better solution. And Mike and the other Mike, Chappy, has also talked about this, and I know this is huge for Mark too. There is, and the VA knows this, that there is a better way. There is a curative thing in community, and veterans in community, which is what we need to deal with life, it's the way to go. And understanding what post-traumatic, they've changed the words over the years to make it a more palatable thing. It used to be shell shock and battle fatigue, and now it's post-traumatic stress disorder. Maybe it makes it easier to make a pill. But what we need is person-to-person contact, a brother to go through it or a sister to go through it with, and just a way to share. A burden shared is half the burden, and a pill does not do that. And so, last weekend I was at a funeral for a friend of mine's mother, and one of the guys there was a father to a veteran recently, suicide by police officer, and it's just heartbreaking time and time again, and I can't talk about all the people I've met over the years that have gone on to do this, or it's just it's not necessary, and we can do better. Whether the VA can facilitate that or not, I don't think so. I think we need to after World War II, everybody went to the VFW and the American Legion, and those are good places to have a drink and deal with stuff you wouldn't say in your family room. But the younger generation doesn't do that. You get a DWI, you get and we need better places.
And you don't turn to that community with your brothers and sisters at that bar, whether you're just talking shit to each other or reliving, previous events over a beer. I mean, and let's just be honest, like the greatest generation, very many of those men, they committed suicide through the bottle, right? I mean,
by
like
alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because,
Right there.
think about, like America,
Yep.
the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, Civil War, World War I, World War II. We didn't really have a lot modern combat, World War II, who we are as a society. Those men came home and they just shoved that stuff down. And how many of those guys? And so I just applaud like Mike and Chappy, you too, Tom, but these guys are the men who are out there trying to like find ways to bring, our brothers and sisters together to realize and I hate to say it, it's the same with cops, like cops, hate cops. A lot of that time it's a really stressful and sometimes it can be life altering or life taking situation. And then that individual gets back into that person's squad car by themselves and then goes through that rest of the shift, just trying to deal with that shit. Mm-hmm. I really personally, and I've never been that person. I have no problem, not so much in public, but in private, like, Chappy and I did last night. I'm not afraid to expose myself and talk about that stuff because I know it's bad if I try to keep that stuff inside. Chappy and Mike, can you guys address that a little bit? I mean, am I talking shit, or is that kind of what you guys are seeing from your experiences?
No, not at all. I think, and thank you, Mark, for again just bringing up some super valid points. I'm going to have to disagree with you, Tom, about the VFW. I think they're out of date, out of touch. I don't think drinking should be their focal point. It should be something else. Shift the model. That's really why I haven't engaged much with the local VFW. But again, it had its own place in time.
And that's all I was trying to say. That's why you said back in the day, that's what happened, right?
That's what it was. That was the outlet. That was the resource. But what I love is that, what Mike is doing, I just looked at your website, Mike, and it's phenomenal. I think what you're doing is stellar, dude. Keep that going, please. That looks amazing. It makes me want to be a Minnesotan. Forge my own knives. Yes, please. Okay. Yeah. So, but it's beautiful to see, and it's, more to my point that doesn't, all over the nation, not just here in Arizona, there are so many different organizations that are trying to take up where the slack that the VA is letting out, and offering services that the VA should either be, inventing themselves, funding and supporting, so that there is more options or are more options to our vets after they get out of service. I mean, I wouldn't imagine, after I got out in 2004, if someone came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to go get paid to go work on a trail crew for 5 days and see some amazing country and, get an amazing experience with 4 other vets, as intimate as it gets, you know, and yeah, would that sound interesting to you? And I'd be like, yeah, sign me up. And you know, to Mike's point, if there was someone out there saying, you know, if there's this program in place where you go and get dropped off and survive for a week, and then there's this whole like regiment program beyond that to continue that engagement, dude, that's what we need. That's what we want. So I want to echo everything that Mike is saying. I want to connect with you, Mike. Please, let's make that happen so I can learn more about your program. I'm absolutely stoked to let you know what I'm doing out here. But it's beautiful that you brought him on, Mark. That there's more entities like myself out there that are doing some amazing work with veterans in the outdoor space.
We'll definitely make that happen.
Yeah, before you go, Mike. So on that note, if you guys in the private chat, Chappy and Mike, you guys could exchange your stuff in the private chat. But Chappy, to your point, I mean, that's what you know, when I first learned of 23rd Veteran, and same with you, Chappy, I'd never met you before, never had a beer with you, and when I first learned of you and what you were doing, I was like, oh hell yes. I mean, that's, you know, and I don't want to take away from anything that you guys or other groups are doing, but I felt this in my soul too when I first came back. I mean, you know, when I first came back, it was me coming back from the agency, and I took a year off, and I just wanted to be out in nature that whole fucking time. If I would have left the agency and then lived in a city, Lord knows what would have happened to me. It was coming back here, being in nature. And then, you know, and I'm like, hey, I got 40 acres. You know what? I'd like to do something where I bring vets up here and they can, you know, make some primitive campsites. And, you know, there's a river through the family property, you know, another 80 acres, you know, there's all this beauty, lakes up here. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And then, you know, life and shit went sideways and all that kind of stuff. But Mike, I didn't know you guys were doing that and bringing people to Alaska. That's phenomenal, man.
Yeah, we do it all over the country. The important part is to get them to a place that they're unfamiliar with, uncomfortable with, because that's when we can break down our barriers and really learn to trust each other. A good analogy I like to give is if we're taking prisoner of war, say the Korean War, and we're in this bunker and nobody speaks English and nobody looks like us and wears our uniform, and we're being fed, you know, bread and water for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they stick somebody from your hometown next to you in the cell next to you, and you both speak, like, you have things in common. You trust them like that. And now if you're walking down the street in your hometown and you walk by that person, you're not going to trust them. It's like you're in this uncomfortable situation, unfamiliar situation. You guys can just break down those barriers and just get comfortable being vulnerable with each other and build those bonds so much quicker. Yeah. There's something that I want to mention. I'm going to take a step further than what Chappy was talking there. I think the lowest hanging fruit in battling this epidemic with mental health and suicide in the veteran community doesn't lie with the VA. I think it lies with the DoD. So the Department of Defense, they have this long-term, active, intentional training program to teach us how to survive and live comfortably in a military environment, how to be comfortable killing other people. That takes some massive changes in our conscious and our subconscious to be able to do that. And then when we're done with that, we get a PowerPoint class.
Yep.
And then back to the civilian world. I believe it's on the DoD's responsibility. We should have a long-term, active, intentional program to change both our conscious and subconscious to prepare us to be able to make friends and feel comfortable in the civilian world again.
Well, I think, but just to our larger point of what we're trying to accomplish here today. So, Mike, to your point, whether that's DoD, VA, that's still the government. And that's, you know, and the government is we the people, and the government is failing. So it's more of we the people, the yous and the chappies, and what we're trying to do here tonight. That I think that's how we're going to, at least that's how we're going to bring this to light and expose this and make more people aware of it. And maybe that helps facilitate some change at a higher level. But me personally, I'm kind of done thinking that they're going to come and help us. I'm looking more to you and to Chappy and Tom and to every other like-minded brother and sister out there. That's where I'm kind of turning my attentions.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to poo-poo what you just said, but I hear you. But
I do agree.
They're more concerned about if you had all your shit for CIF when you were clearing than they were whether you were going to be good to go when you left.
Mm-hmm. And the government has been putting so much more effort towards it. We're up to 17,000 mental health workers in the VA. Every level of the VA has a mental health screening process. No matter what you go to the VA for, they screen you for mental health. And that's changed. The conversation's been open, but the numbers haven't changed. I mean, we're trying. The government they're doing something to try, but it's not the right thing yet. I think they don't know what to do. And it is the people like Chappy, the people like us, the people that have been there are the ones that and have gone out of it. It's the old story about being in the hole, and the only person that can really get you out of the hole is the one who's done it before. They know the way out. Yeah, we're still young in suicide prevention. The very first framework that the government had in suicide prevention came out in 2003.
Wow.
So it's like just over 20 years that the government's been looking at suicide prevention. I agree with you. I agree with everything you're saying, that it's not being done right. The numbers haven't changed. That study that showed 22 veterans were killing themselves every day came out. That was a 2012 study. The VA changed the way they did the study right after that. And they said, well, it shouldn't have been 22. It should have been 20. And then from 2013 until now, 2024, the last 11 years, it's fluctuated between like 16 and a half and 19 suicides per day on average, which this year it went back up. It's at 17.5. So it's all this effort we're putting into it, and the numbers aren't changing. It isn't getting better. We're not doing it right yet.
Chappy, I know this is dear to your heart. You want to chime in there, sir?
Yeah, I'll echo everything that Mike just said. I like the idea of it being the DoD, and I'll even go a step further. This may not be a popular comment, but I had the honor of going to DC to get in politicians' faces about this, and I actually spoke with one, and to a group of us, a group of veterans. He asked the group, when should transitional services start? And all of us had an opinion, like, when we go to boot camp, when we tap services or whatever. And he said, no, it needs to begin when you raise your right hand. They need to be thinking about what we do afterward, because not all of us are careerists. Not all of us are going to get out with, for me, I got lucky. I had nature. I had that affinity. I had family. I had a community to rally around me to give me that strength to keep going. And a lot of us don't. So they need to be thinking about every single type of officer and enlisted personality, what they do afterward. What does that look like? How do we support them in becoming normal again, if that's even a thing? I know we're all weird because we signed up to do this shit, but like, you get my point. Like it's about taking care of us. Like back to, your first comment, Mark, and when the stream started, like we need to make that a priority. Money needs to go to that. I don't care what your thoughts on spending and money, and well, fuck you. The budget for the military is outrageous. The money we're sending overseas is outrageous. Let's take a fraction of that. I don't know about you, Mike, but it doesn't take much for me to do what I do. And I'm not looking to get rich doing this. I'm wanting more experiences, more outreach, more opportunities. It doesn't take a lot of money to do this. So to give someone or an organization out there the legs to do this permanently and across the country and potentially the world would be huge for veterans. It would bring us together. It would allow us to heal. It would allow us to be more productive members of society, and on and on and on. So I don't want to hear that we can't fund these things. I don't want to hear that shit anymore. And I refuse to cowtail anymore. I'm going to scream this as loud and proud as I can, that people like me, people like Mike, and the countless others that are providing these types of opportunities and experiences have to be and need to be in place when service members get out.
And I just almost, and that was such a great point. And I know Tom would have so much to say and can add to this. And, and I don't know, maybe we should do a 3-hour live stream, but I kind of, if we keep it in bite-sized pieces in a great start here, like I'll just say, echo my personal experience and then kind of see if Tom wants to add to this. We talk about the expenditures and, just in a fraction, and there's so many things that we could do that are very cheap. And God bless you, brothers and sisters who do have good regional VA, VA healthcare. That has unfortunately not been my experience. Maybe I'm the outlier, but there's been 2 times. Well, there's been 3 very negative things. 2 of them could have killed me. And if it wasn't for me being the asshole that I am, I might not be here right now. And it was just basic healthcare. And if we would have, to your kind of point, Chappy, whether it's mental health, physical health, you know, like, hey, here's my best way of saying, I've never once had the impression that anyone actually really wants to figure out what is wrong with me so we can identify it. So if it can be fixed, we can fix it. So I can go on to, like you said, Chappy, continue to have a productive life, be a better member of community, and start giving things back. I kind of get the sense of like, you know what? I'm paid to give you some pharmaceuticals. This is what I'm told to do. You're going to shut up and take it. And if you don't like it, go get civilian health care, piss off. That's kind of been my thing. And that goes both, I think. Look, I mean, I got to channel this into anger. It was about 6 months ago. I saw on social media this poor veteran leaving his VA healthcare, and the guy was having, like, somebody said, "Oh, this guy's going to have a nervous breakdown." I'm like, no, you're witnessing a human being in the middle of a nervous breakdown. He was on the side of the road, pulled over, crying his eyes out, just bawling. He was so frustrated for everything he was going through. And and it was a new person like every month. And he has to start the cycle all over and tell his whole story. And how painful is that to have to do that every fucking time? And at the end of the day, it's like, here's just some, again, here's a fentanyl based drug, or here's some bullshit where this poor guy just wanted to find out what was wrong with him so he could fix himself and going back into living his life. And yeah, there's so much we could be talking about here, boys.
I'm going to take off, Mark. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate everything that y'all are doing to help our veterans, and I look forward to connecting in the future.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And I'll be reaching out to you guys. Seriously, I'm going to be doing some stuff and trying to raise a little bit of money to help you guys out in the future too. So thanks for coming on and taking the time out of your day, Mike. And more importantly, thanks for telling your story as well and your background. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Mike. All right. Hey, guys, we're at 56. I kind of want to give you guys some final, a chance to make your final comments. And then normally during these live streams, I read everybody's comments. I didn't read anyone's comments tonight, but we've got, there's been some comments, and I just appreciate everybody taking the time out of their day to spend time and hear about this. Something that very dear to my heart. I know very dear to Tom's, very dear to Chappy's. I hope it's very dear to your heart too. And we've got to, as a community, figure out how to unfuck this situation. So, and I'm sorry for swearing, but screw you, VA. Chappy or Tom, let's come to you, and then let's come to Chappy for finals. Yeah, and then if you guys want to hang out though, and then I'm going to read everybody's comments real quickly because some of these comments are for you guys. So please don't go, but let's do your final comments, and then we'll end reading everybody's comment who's been kind enough to stick with us for this hour. Tom, why don't you go first?
Sure. Just thanks for having me on. Definitely a different thing, I think, than we planned. But I'll say this, the VA when I first started, the first 10 years there was a big push for patient-centered healthcare. They spent $450 million. They got the program off the ground and dropped the ball. And right now the government is broke, and the VA is, they say it's funded. I don't think it's. Everybody I talk to at the VA, I still am active. I'm a member of the AFGE as a way. I spend a week in Washington every year lobbying, and it gives me an opportunity to keep veterans issues in the forefront. But they're not keeping up. The money's not there, and they're not hiring new docs. And like Mark said about the guy that had a nervous breakdown, because the average age of a physician at the VA is 65 years old, and they're just not doing it. I could go on for a long time, but I just appreciate everybody's time. And I think we just need to keep forging a new way to connect in community and not be afraid to talk to each other. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's why you were coughing. You were parched.
That's it. But keep fighting the fight. I love, keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. We just have to keep fighting the battle. And, the battle is every day. And there does seem to be an enemy of our souls. And I think together we can win.
That was well done. Chappy, that's a hard act to follow right there, sir. What do you got?
And I'm just gonna say, because I think I've said enough about how I feel, and um, I will just thank you, Mark, and you, Tom, for again, the fact that we have these platforms to discuss relevant issues that are related to our military community. I'm so grateful that you've opened it up to a hippie like me that is all about trying to go back in time without removing too much of what we've gained as far as like regaining a sense of community. And this brings me a step closer to that, so I appreciate all of what you do. And I will echo what Tom said of just keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. Just fucking go for it. Don't stop. If you are in dire straits, I even just put this on my Facebook page. Please go and take a look at it, or I'll throw it down here too. If you are going in that direction, if you are thinking of becoming the 23rd veteran, as Mike said, call me. Call me. Call Mark. Call Tom. Call Mike. We're here. I don't fucking care if we serve together. We serve together. We sign that line. We hold that line together. So don't quit. Don't quit.
Never quit.
That's all I got.
And I hate to say it, just because you're not in uniform anymore. I mean, unless you've just totally checked out and given up that part of who you are, your service ain't over. It's not over until you say it's over, right? And gosh dang it. Oh, yeah. Amen, Chappy. Thank you, sir. All right. Hey, real quickly, I'm going to pop up one thing on the screen here. Again, some positive stuff. So 23rd veteran, right? Chappy's organization. I'm going to share one more thing real quickly with everybody that you might want to look into. And then let me come back to us. Okay. And then here's there it is. And that's their URL. That's their website. And look, something's wrong when civilian organizations, and organizations that actually, look, it's a business. They've still got to make money. They got to employ people, whatever. When something's not right, when civilian organizations can flourish in the realm that's only supposed to be us, and we already have these mechanisms that are supposed to be in place. We're already spending so much tax dollars for this, and yet something is so broken that civilian organizations can come in and start doing things better. So if and I want to echo Chappy's statements right there. Hey, I mean it seriously, and so many of you guys and gals, I talk to every customer anyway, and some of you become friends, even though I've never even had beers with you, and you veterans as well. And, and yeah, man, don't ever quit. Don't ever give up. There's always another river to cross. There's always another battle that's worth fighting. So stay in the fight, boys and girls, stay in the fight. And then rely on some of your brothers and sisters and some of these good organizations out there that can help you in that fight, right? So you are not alone, not alone. All right. So that's another little organization right there that I just kind of wanted to plug real quickly. Guys, if you want to hang out for a second, this will probably take give me about 5 minutes. I just want to give everybody props who's left us a comment here tonight. So you guys, can you stick around for a few more minutes? Okay, cool. Here we go. I'm just going to pop them up and read them, give everybody some props. Good evening, Gene. This is from way back at the beginning, boys. Actually, Gene was there waiting for us before we even started. Hope everyone is okay. Thanks, Gene. Snowshoe Dave checking in, made it in time. Learn me something. What's up, crew? Gene again from across the pond. I think they're saying thanks, Mark, and all the other vets. Al from up in Canada finally got to watch you live. Thanks for joining us, Al. Ducks Heritage, great guy. Hey guys, great guy. Thanks for joining us. Then we got Dustin. Hey guys, late but made it. Thanks for joining. Murph Nuge, another just there's so many people who I've got to meet who I could have brought on here. Murph's another one, former Marine, just dialed in, and I know he's got things to say about this. So Murph, thanks for joining. I hope you found this beneficial. And look, and for Tom and Chappy, we've got to do this again. This is just the beginning, right? I think this is just the beginning. And Tom, to your point, the things we kind of thought we were going to talk about, we didn't even get to, and that's okay. That's totally okay. Cephas Solutions. I know who this is. Appreciate your service, gentlemen. Hey, you too, Devil Dog. He's one of the only people I get to call Devil Dog, and he knows why. Dave Bradfield, former agency guy. So again, he's a veteran of the psychic wars. You know, he's been in combat, just not but it's, hey, when people are trying to kill you, I don't know. I kind of consider that kind of combat. Hey, so our feed on X is working tonight. Thanks for that feedback. Kassler, 4th Platoon, Party Vikings, Daniel Crawford. Hello all. So far, it sounds like I'm in the right place. Yeah, Daniel, I think you've come to the right place. Blake from over on Millstone, good friend of mine, brother, amen, brother. Then we got Evan Gossel. Cheers. Yeah, I was going to say, Chappy, I think some of these people you probably know, right? Yep.
Evans, we call him Goose. He's another trail vet, so glad to see his beautiful face there.
Rock and roll. And we got Gene. Now this is going to get a little longer, and this is where some of these questions are going to be coming over to you and Tom. I think Tom had to just step away for a second. Gene, we have vets in the UK on the streets not getting the help they need or a place to live, yet immigrants come to the UK and we spend 8 to 9 million pounds a day to house them, fresh bedding, 3 meals a day. Again, somebody say, oh, that's just like, what a racist thing to say. No, it's not. It's a legitimate adult conversation. If the men and women who volunteered, who've made that sacrifice so we can still have this and we're not speaking German, and no offense to anybody from Germany, I'm talking about, like, had the Allies not stood up to Hitler, completely different world. But we're just going to like forget those guys and push them off to the side and then, spend our limited resources elsewhere. I think that's an adult conversation that's worth having. And I'm not saying I have the answer. Maybe there's a compromise, but we're not even doing that, right? We're just ignoring our vets. Gene, again, dental and doctor visits, free laptop, buses, passes, mobile. They get more than anyone I know, and are males of fighting age, leaving kids and women behind. And you just had a fighting age male in your country beat up 3 women because he thought they weren't dressed appropriately. George Fretwell, another dude, that's Triple X. Been many places with that. Good man. Love this. George then commented, the vets who've suffered from the old days are the ones we need to learn from. This is a very important subject that we need to bring to the forefront or to the front door and make it a priority. Amen. Keep going. Devil Dog chiming in. Then now to you, Chappy. So from his region, his VA down in Fredericksburg is really good from his experience. So that's just the sad thing, God damn, at least give us uniformity. And I don't want the uniformity to be, negative. I would like that being the uniformity,
Exactly. And I think that's a great comment because, you had mentioned your experience and then seeing this in my own, it just should show the VA, I doubt they'll ever watch this, but if they do, they should see that it's not uniform. It's not universal across the board. And that's a failure, period.
Yep. Gene, they should lose the D from PTSD. It's stress, not a disorder, I feel. So in his opinion, he feels it's stress. And the vets I know and lost say the same. Sorry if speaking out of line. Chappy, Tom, you guys want to kind of address that real quick? I don't think he's speaking out of line. I mean, again, everybody can have their opinion. Is it a disorder or is it like a stress-induced physical, like Mike was just talking about, he found a way to deal with his PTSD, right? So, I mean, is it a disorder? Because if it's a disorder, it needs to be treated chemically, I would think. Whereas if you can find what we're saying, the outdoor, and release those natural chemicals, Chappy, what do you think?
I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to pretend to be one on TV. However, I will say that the stigma probably is, and I could be off base here, but what I've heard, and I adhere to this to a degree, that disorder denotes, some sort of clinical diagnosis or some sort of stigma around a disorder in general. If you have a disorder, then you're broken. Stress is stress, right? So if you remove the D, then I agree, it doesn't seem so clinical. So I think that might be maybe Gene's point. And to that, I agree. Like, we need to make it, and I hate to rebrand things, but Tom touched on this earlier, it used to be shell shock. I mean, What the fuck is wrong with that term? That seemed inappropriate. So we needed to rebrand it to PTS and then PTSD. And I'm sure it'll turn into something else. But now, what it is, let's just call it what it is. It's mental illness. It is something that happens, trauma related, usually, that continues to replay itself over and over again in our real lives. And that is what it needs to be addressed as, not to like, label it. It needs to become more human to confront it.
Tom, you want to add to that from your, like no joke hands-on experience?
Well, I've got PTSD, not related to combat, but a different deal. I got used as a hostage in an armed robbery, and I couldn't figure out for the longest time why I would get pissed off all the time over things that shouldn't get me pissed off. And then when I started working at the VA and experiencing other patients' PTSD, I started searching it more, and then for my own health, kind of came to a conclusion as to what was going on. So something happens, in these situations, and there is some chemical changes that happen in our brain, and then as a function of our brains, we remember that, and when we experience something that reminds us or triggers that memory, we have this overwhelming physiological response that doesn't correlate with the reality of what's going on. When things are labeled as a disorder, like I said earlier, sometimes it's just big pharma wanting to sell a pill. And, it doesn't, the guy I worked for at the VA, Afghan vet, and he saw, a bunch of dead kids. And in order to deal with that, he had to do some desensitivity training. And so he had some pictures hung up on his office, that were just hard to see. And but that's how we dealt with it. Now with chemicals and pills and that, and it helped him kind of learn how to cope. But there's lots of different things that we can do to cope that isn't what's necessarily given in the medical community. And not that things in medicine are helpful. There's crises we need to get through, and medications can be helpful, but there's got to be more to get on the other side of it and live a healthy life.
Yeah,
and if I could just add to what Tom just said too, like we didn't talk about this, but alternative medicine is and should be at the forefront of this discussion as well. Just like outdoor therapy is, using psychedelics, using cannabis, LSD, or the equivalent of mushrooms, to help rewire parts of our brain. Microdosing, exactly. It's not about getting stoned. It's about trying to find a more holistic and natural approach to rewiring our brains to help navigate this trauma. And it's really, to Tom's end, what I've learned, it's straight up avoidance. That's why this gentleman that I was talking about earlier felt isolated, because he couldn't talk about it. And if he had an opportunity to talk about it, maybe he would have had a chance to heal from it. But he was denied these things, and moreover, like chemically, whatever he was being prescribed, I don't know if he was, but if he was, that opens up other neural pathways that allow us to have these kinds of dark thoughts, and then to actually act upon them. So it's sad, but again, there's conversations that I think are starting to happen around things that were criminalized and demoralized back in the day. Just going back to big pharma, I mean, it's about who benefits. Yeah. And if they're not getting the money, then they're not going to promote it, and they're probably going to try and ban it like they have. So it needs to start coming back around full circle, so that these options are available to our veterans.
I would very much like to, next time we get together and have this conversation, and I'll do an after action review with you guys once we've kind of like done the live stream, but I would like to think about doing this again in the not too distant future. And I would love this conversation right here to be a part of that, because, Chappy, you and I have talked a little bit about it. I think, Tom, I may have talked to you, but from my personal experience, to what you're kind of saying, Chappy, why aren't we, if we're willing, we're not going to do this. Here, this is a bad example. The VA won't approve water therapy, but water therapy for back and that doesn't even make any effing sense. Why? Because there's no pharmaceutical link to it. I mean, so I don't want to, open up another rabbit hole, but I kind of agree. Gene, you kind of opened us up and we went in I hope we answered your question, Gene. I hope we
Thanks, Gene.
Yeah, some good info there. Now this is Blake. I think he was saying this about the time Mike was talking about what they're doing at 23rd Veteran. We need more good men like Mike in Minnesota. Daniel Crawford. I apologize. I think this came up at the same time, and I don't know if this was geared towards Mike. But again, you saw if it was geared towards Mike, you saw their URL. You can see how to reach out and contact them. If this is geared towards Chappy, and I think it was geared towards Mike. He's the 23rd recon coordinator that is leading the class currently running in Virginia, Minnesota. I'd love for you to come out to one of our workout sessions. I think that's Mike. You don't want me. I can barely walk. So, my workout session, I'll be like that Department of Transportation guy leaning against a shovel and telling y'all what to do and not doing a damn thing myself. So, but I think, honestly, you saw who Mike was. Daniel, if I'm interpreting your comment right, reach out to him, man. It's, I'll put it back up here again, but it's just 23rdvet.org. And I'm pretty sure you could reach out to him and maybe make that happen. Big Visk, good stuff. Thank you, Big Visk. There's we already did that. Vet Guardian. Okay, here we go. David, again, brother from another mother, veteran of the Psychic Wars. People wanted him dead too. So, great show. And then my only point is, and I think to Chappy and I, what we're talking about is like, let's just have the uniformity, right? So David's basically saying, hey, but as bad as the VA is, credit where credit is due. They saved his dad's life twice, and perhaps a third time, as he not only finished his federal service for retirement, but continues to give back post-retirement by volunteering weekly, giving out donuts and coffee. Hey, no one gives out donuts and coffee where I am, and they've tried to kill me twice. So maybe that's the yin and yang. They tried to kill me twice and saved your dad twice, but. Tons to
that's saying something though, to David's point, like the fact that his dad is now, he feels compelled to volunteer at his local VA. That says something. Yep.
Okay, so good point. And then we've got Steve, and I'm pretty sure I know this is again another brother from another mother, veteran of the Psychic Wars. Great session, important material. Thanks for sharing and thanks for your service. Back to Daniel. Okay, this may have come in. Yeah. Context. He works for Mike. Took the class to Alaska, and that is going on now. We have a day for guests coming up. Would love to have you. I think if you're talking to me, I'm not going to be working out with you, brother. Like I said, I've got back, hips, I'd be, you want to give me a holler or shoot me an email, and, I'd be honored to come and talk, but I will not be working out. Hopefully that'll change after I got, not to give you my drama, but hopefully that's going to change. It started changing and then something else happened. And now I'm back on the, kind of just got to fix a couple things and then we'll see. But Daniel, reach out. And that's awesome that you work for Mike. All right. Jeremy, that's Redbeard saying, hey fellas, thanks for joining us, Jeremy. Tracer, hey Tracer, thanks for joining us. Jacob Carter, thanks for joining us as well.
Jacob, that's my boy in Tucson. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Very important info. Very glad you guys are sharing and helping others. That's what we're trying to do, Jacob. And thank you for being a part of that out there with Chappy. Almost wrapping this up here. Tracer, I'm scared to start my VA process, and I'm scared. I feel like I'm not going to get the help I need. Brother, I hope that's not true. As we've just kind of talked, some people have good VAs, others don't. But hopefully some of those resources we provided could help you out. And matter of fact, here, and I'm going to share one more at the very end here. Hey, Tom, the White House line, I'm going to share that at the end. Do you think that's beneficial too, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great resource for folks.
Okay. I know I'll put that up here in a second. Here we go. Let's wrapping this up. Jeremy, why get to the root of the issues when you can just pump pills and chemicals to profit big pharma? There's too much money to be made, boys, not only just with vets, but the average person. That is, Redbeard, that is unfortunately a problem that we are experiencing in our society. No doubt about it. Gene, thank you. Blake, it was actually about Chappy saying Minnesota sounds like a good place. Yeah, see, Chappy. Blake said Minnesota could use more men like you. Come on up. The weather's really cold, but we got tons of lakes, brother, and lots of forest.
I love all that shit. Sign me up.
Yeah, Jeremy, I did the 23rd Vet Ruck March. Some solid peeps over there. Good shout out on that. Daniel, yes, come out and check us out. No workout needed. And then Learn Me Something just said, Redbeard, you are missed, brother. Yeah, so Redbeard got a little shout out here. And then let me just do this. I thought I had, maybe I did this as a banner. Give me a quick second. Yep, here we go. Boys and girls, I just recently found this out, and this worked incredible for me. So one last resource before we kick it here and call it a night. If shit really gets sideways and, you know, and your patient advocate isn't doing, you feel like they're not doing their job, or they're ignoring you, or they're telling you to go get civilian health insurance, you know, and piss off, this number right here, this worked for me. And Tom, we just lost Tom for a second. Hopefully he'll come back, but I'm not joking. I found this number. This number was not made readily available to me. I had to kind of seek it out, and I found it. And this was a game changer for me. So it's probably like, you know, you think about like your video games or your weapon platform, or your, you know, it's your weapon or tool of last resort. I think, you know, do the right thing, go through this internet. But if the system is shitting on you, this worked out great for me. Tom, can you add just one thing before you drive off about the VA White House line?
Yeah, it's just a great red button thing. If you're just not getting any traction on your issue, they've got the executive branch behind them. So, you know, if you go through your patient advocate and that doesn't work, and you go through your congressional liaison and that doesn't work, you know, this one comes from the top, the very top down. And yeah, I have worked with the guy that runs the program. He's actually out of California, not sitting with Joe Biden, but close enough. So it's a good resource.
Yeah.
Well, to go back to, I think it was a Taser. I think they were concerned about their experience at their VA. Taser, get that number down. You know, explore those resources first. You know, use that chain of command, and if you're not getting what you need, use that red button, man. I would, or find a good VSO. I mean, they're out there. I was talking about the VFW earlier, but I've met some amazing folks at the VFW, the DAV, that will, you know, advocate on your behalf, especially with VA claims. So that's another resource out there for you that you should explore too.
And I just, unfortunately, so again, and maybe it's just, I've just been dealt the shitty cards, but none of those things they just haven't worked where I am, you know. And I don't know if it's a political thing, if it's a systemic thing from the state, or if it's a regional thing, but, you know, because it should work. I mean, and I feel like, you know, again, that's who we are as veterans. Maybe that's a negative thing of us. We do. We follow the rules. We, you know, use the chain of command. We suck it up, buttercup. But I'm here to tell you, you know, when your health and your mental or physical health is on the line, if you're, you know, do the right thing. But if you're not getting that traction, you know, and here they say it all the time on the VA. Oh, you've got to be your own patient advocate. Okay, well, when you guys keep kicking me to the curb, well, then now I have to be my own patient advocate, and then I'm going to take advantage of that. So if that's a resource that you could use, I wish I would have. I'm not even lying. I wish I would have known about that years ago. I wish I would have known about it years ago. I only found it out 2 weeks ago, and it made a difference almost immediately for me. So, all right, here we go. Tom's driving, so we gotta say goodbye to him because that's unsafe. Tom, I will talk to you later. You be safe. Oh, well, he's just driving to show us the woods or something he's doing. I don't know what he's doing. Are you gonna go drop a tree?
I'm just parked in the driveway, brother. I got a hanger up in a white pine that I couldn't get with my four-wheeler, so now I'm using my truck to pull it off the tree.
Well, so right there, just back to everything we said. Tom's out in the woods.
I love that Tom's in nature, though. That gives me a lot of joy to watch him, you know, go and do some chores around his property.
Yeah, and he's grabbing a hanging stand, you know, or whatever out of a tree. So yeah, he you know, again, nature.
It's
beautiful.
It's a 65-foot popple hung up in a 100-foot white pine, and it's hanging right over the driveway. So I gotta get.
I gotta get out there with the crosscut, man. Get that down.
Yeah. All right.
So I cut it. I got the base off. Now I just got to move it off the base here.
Okay. Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yeah. Just be careful,
nice
my good man.
Yeah.
But being out in nature, you know, and just being out there, and it's a little drizzly. It's the boreal forest, you know. Yeah. And Blake says, be careful. That's a widowmaker. So
it is.
All right. Hey, we're at an hour 24. That's all right. You know, train to standards, not to time. But you know, and I appreciate everybody who's been with us and still with us right now. I want Tom to be able to focus. Tom, here, final comments from you guys, and then we're doing an outro, and then we're calling it. Tom, final comments before you
thanks,
get your
brother.
change out.
Appreciate the time. Yeah, would be willing to come on and chat again with folks anytime.
Okay. All right.
I'll
Well,
just
hang
say
on a
that
second when we kick off, and then I'll talk to you guys about the AAR. Chappy.
Just my heart feels good. I had a whiskey on my fallen's behalf, but like I needed this today. So Mark, I know this wasn't the intention, but this is what community is, you know, and I really appreciate just having a little break from my brain and my heart for an hour and 25 minutes here, and then I can go back inward. But like this has been a breath of fresh air, and I really appreciate this opportunity. So thank you, brother.
And I just appreciate you were willing to come on and share, because, you know, I mean, that's just such a horrible thing, but you know, trying to find the good and the bad. And I think it was good. And I hope people learned from that. And I hope it reached people's souls and got some people to think, because this ain't bullshit. So, you know, so amen to you, Chappy. I really appreciate you taking the time. All right. We're going to wrap this up here. Yeah, we'll wrap it up. We're going to do more of this, boys and girls. This is not over by any stretch of the imagination. This is not over. If you want to say it this way, this is a hill I'm going to plant my flag upon. So stay tuned. We'll have more great people, men and women like Chappy and Tom coming on. We'll be talking about this more. Well, you know, matter of fact, I'll save it because I don't want to delay it. I'm even going to do something on the website that's going to be dedicated to always being able to at least raise some money for some good charity and some good cause that's veteran related going forward over on Centerline Systems, because damn it, it's the right thing to effing do. So thank you, everybody. Reach out. Seriously, you're not alone. It's okay. You are not alone. It's all right to be afraid. It's all right to be pissed off. You know, but it's not all right to just think you're alone and then just try to carry the weight of the world's on your shoulder. It don't work that way. Reach out to somebody, whether it's Chappy, me, you know, 23rd veteran, you know, another, somebody in your community, a relative, a religious figure. Just fucking talk to somebody. For me, and get out in nature more than anything. It was nature, and then being able to find like-minded people like these great guys, and then be able to talk about stuff. And that saved me. I mean, plain and simple. That's what saved me. So, all right, everybody. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you take it to heart, and we'll see you on Monday over on Millstone, and then we'll see everybody here again on Centerline Systems next Thursday. And until then, reach out if you got questions, comments. I'll do the best I can to help you out. And as we said already today, keep thinking, keep moving, and never, never, never quit. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Woo!